Not one of these taxes existed 100 years ago. And at that time, the United States of America and Canada was not much different, the most prosperous places in the world. Charley Reese was a journalist for 49 years, and he is just currently retiring from the Orlando Sentinel. This is his last column, and I thought it was worthy of sharing with you. 545 versus 300 million people by Charley Reese. Politicians are the only people in the world who create problems and then campaign against them. Ain't that the truth? Have you ever wondered if both the Democrats and the Republicans are against deficits? Why do we have deficits? Have you ever wondered if all the politicians are against inflation and high taxes? Why do we have inflation and high taxes? For all my Canadian friends, stick with me. There's Canadian relevancy here. You and I don't propose a federal budget. The President, the Prime Minister does. You and I don't have the constitutional authority to vote on appropriations. The House of Representatives does. You and I don't write the tax code. Oh, God, I wish. Congress does. You and I don't set fiscal policy. Congress does. You and I don't control monetary policy. The Federal Reserve Bank does. Central banks. 100 senators, 435 congressmen, 1 president, and 9 Supreme Court justices equates to 545 human beings out of 300 million who are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country. Now, that is in the United States. Let me share with you the Canadian numbers. 105 senators, 338 members of Parliament, and 9 Supreme Court justices equates to 452 human beings out of 37 million who are directly, legally, morally, and individually responsible for the domestic problems that plague this country. They have 545 for a population of 328 million people in the U.S. We have 452, a larger number for 1/10 the population. You think government has gotten a little too big? Back to Mr. Charley Reese. I excluded the members of the Federal Reserve Board because that problem was actually created by Congress. In 1913, Congress delegated its constitutional duty to provide a sound currency to a federally chartered but private central bank. I excluded all the special interests and the lobbyists for sound reason. They have no legal authority. And they do not. They have no ability to coerce a senator, a congressman, a president, a prime minister to do one cotton-picking thing, he says. I don't care if they offer a politician $1 million in cash. It is in the politician's power to accept or reject it. Mr. Hunter Biden, Mr. Joe Biden, you think that cronyism is not alive and well? No matter what the lobbyist promises, it is the legislator's responsibility to determine how he votes. I want to ask you to start thinking about the things that Mr. Reese is pointing out here. Because are they voting in our best interest, or do they vote in their best interest? And I have to point out that many people have said to me, Nadine, it is ridiculous. You believe that just a few hundred people can control and run the world. Well, 545 in the United States, 452 control 400 million people. What separates a politician from a normal human being? I like this one, because really nothing. What separates a politician from a normal human being is an excessive amount of gall. No normal human being would have the gall of a speaker who would stood up and criticize the president for creating deficits. The president can only propose a budget. He cannot force the Congress to accept it. The Constitution in the United States, which is the supreme law of the land, gives sole responsibility to the House of Representatives for originating and approving appropriations and taxes. Who is the Speaker of the House now? He is the leader of the majority party. He and fellow House members, not the president, can approve any budget they want. If the president vetoes it, they can pass it over his veto if they agree to do so. Here in Canada, when was the last time we saw a budget? Justin Trudeau is just acting on his own power. He seems to think that he's the sole authority and that budgets balance themselves. And there's no need for budgets because we haven't seen one in quite some time. It seems inconceivable to me that a nation of 300 million, 37 million, cannot replace 545 people, 452 people, who stand convicted by present fact of incompetence and irresponsibility. And this goes beyond federal. I've been challenging Mr. Jason Kenney for abdicating his responsibility to non-elected officials. I've been challenging our provincial governments, our MLAs, not just MPs, on where are their voices? Who are they representing? They're hiding at home, saying nothing, doing nothing, while our civil liberties deteriorate. I can't think of a single domestic problem that is not traceable directly to those 545 people. When you fully grasp the plain truth that 545 people exercise the power of the federal government, then it must follow that what exists is what they want to exist. I think that is a very fair conclusion because 100% of the power to change the results that we see today is within their grasp. So this must be the outcome. This must be what they want, for it does exist. If the tax code is unfair, it's because they want it to be unfair. If the budget is in the red, it's because they want it to be in the red. If the Army and the Marines, the Air Force are in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's because they want them in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. If they do not receive Social Security, but are on an elite retirement plan, not available to people like you and I, it's because they want it that way. Joe Biden has a net worth of $47 million. He's been a public servant for 47 years. Just saying. There are no insolvable problems, government, or there are no insoluble government problems. Do not let these 452 people shift the blame to bureaucrats, whom they are responsible for hiring and whose jobs they can abolish, to the lobbyists whose gifts and advice they can reject, to regulators to whom they give the power to regulate, and from whom they can take this power. Mr. Jason Kenney proposed a Department of Deregulation. Every regulation the government has granted to some individual or organization is one they can revoke. I don't see that happening. I just see more and more restrictions, more and more regulations. Above all, do not let them con you into the belief that there exists disembodied mystical forces like the economy, bosses, inflation, politics that prevent them from doing what they take an oath to do. This is all within their control. These 545 people, and they alone, are responsible. They and they alone have the power. They and they alone should be held accountable by the people who are their bosses. They work for us, not the other way around. It is our votes that put them there. So they alone should be held accountable by the people who are their bosses, provided the voters have the gumption to manage their own employees. There is our call to action, North Americans, Canadians, Americans. That is our call to action because they are our employees. We should vote all of them out of office, and let's clean up this mess. What do you do with this article now, he says, that you have read it, is up to you. This might be funny if it actually weren't so true. Now, at the end of this, he actually has a little poem, and I think the poem is worth sharing. Tax his land, tax his bed, tax the table at which he's fed, tax his tractor, tax his mule, tax him, taxes is the rule. Tax his work, tax his pay. His work's for peanuts. Oh, he works for peanuts anyway. Tax his cow, tax his goat, tax his pants, tax his coat, tax his ties, tax his shirt, tax his work, tax his dirt, tax his tobacco, tax his drink, tax him if he tries to think. Oh, heaven forbid you try to think today. Tax his cigars, tax his beers. If he cries, tax his tears. Tax his car, tax his gas, find other ways to tax his ass. Tax all he has, then let him know that you won't be done till he has no dough. When he screams and hollers, then tax him some more, tax him till he's good and sore. Then tax his coffin, tax his grave, tax the sod into which he's laid. Put these words upon his tomb, taxes drove me to my doom. When he's gone, do not relax. It's time to apply the inheritance tax. Accounts receivable tax, building permit tax, CDL tax, cigarette tax, corporate tax, dog license tax, excise tax, federal income tax, a fishing license tax, food license tax, fuel permit tax, gasoline tax, which in the US is 45 cents a gallon. In Canada, I think it's a little higher. Gross tax receipts, hunting license tax, inventory tax, IRS interest tax, liquor tax, luxury tax, marriage tax. Yeah, we have to pay to get married. Personal property tax, real estate tax, service charge, social security tax, recreation tax, sales tax, schools tax. I think you get the idea. And the list just goes on and on and on and on. But what's even funnier, as is pointed out, not one of these taxes existed 100 years ago. And at that time, the United States of America and Canada was not much different. The most prosperous places in the world. Without all these taxes, we had no debt, there was the largest middle class. And he points out, Mom, if she so agreed, stayed home to raise the kids. So what the heck happened? And then he says, can you spell politicians? I have said for a long time that career politics is the death of our country. These politicians who serve themselves and not the people that elect them have poisoned the system. They are the reason it is tax, 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 and more tax. They've grown to a size that is unmanageable and out of control. I'm just going to pick on one example. People seem to think today that you can't work in this country without a social insurance number, which tracks your income. That was put into power, again, by politicians in 1966. What did we do prior to that? I'm pretty damn sure people worked prior to 1966, before the social insurance number. They got you to volunteer to register for a social insurance number with a little carrot. The carrot was the Canada Pension Plan. Register for this voluntary program and we'll provide you with a pension. This is the carrot. This is the little hook that they use. But you have to remember, they don't play the game of catch and release. The minute they have you hooked, they reel you in. Thanks for watching. Please share, because the only way we take back our country is to acknowledge who's in control, who has the power, and we need to make that change. We need to give the power back to us, the people. Like, share, please hit the notification if you'd like to receive more videos.